Alright, yesterday we looked at transforming these quadratics. And the easiest way to see those transformations is to have it in vertex form. That way you can see every single thing that's happening to it. So this is what we spent the majority of our time looking at yesterday. Just the formula and what all these different things mean. So the very first thing is if you see a negative out in front, that means an x-axis reflection. So that graph has literally been flipped over the x-axis. If it's just a positive, meaning you're not going to see a sign there, it's just plain old simple x squared. Means it makes a u. Alright, if you see a number in front of x squared, if you see a fraction, remember that meant it's going to be a vertical shrink. And I'm just going to abbreviate that as V shrink. So it's going to get shorter, basically. If there's a whole number there, remember that meant a vertical stretch. So it's going to get really tall and thin. All right, if you see plus h or minus h, remember if something happens in those parentheses where whatever you see is the opposite of what it should be. So if you see plus h, that means you're actually going to go left. Remember when we found vertex and we had to remember to do the opposite of h? Here it is again. The last one, minus h, would be it's going right. So even though it makes sense for positive to go right, remember in those parentheses it's going to be the opposite. All right, the last one that you might see is something attached on the end. Plus k, which means you're going up, or minus k, which means you're going down. So any variety of this formula here, remember it's all going back to this. So any kind of deviation from x squared means that graph has been transformed somehow. And what determines how it's been transformed is where it's located at in that formula. So if you look at this example, there's a whole lot happening here. If I base this off of this, that x squared, I've got a negative, I've got a number out in front, I've got some parentheses, and I've got something in the end. So in that one function, I've got 4 transformations. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to number them, and then out beside each number I'm going to write what they are. So in this one, that number 1, that negative, means I've got an x-axis reflection. All right, that whole number in front means I've got a vertical stretch. And remember, you can always type these into your calculators and see what happens, so you can get the visual of it. All right, number 3, because that's in parentheses, means it's going to be the opposite. Parentheses means I'm going left to right. So in this case, I'm going left 4. And that last one, that minus 8 out there, means I'm going down 8. All right, next one. Here, I've got fraction out front. This time I don't have a negative, so I don't have that reflection. I've got parentheses, and I've got something stuck out on the end. So this one, that fraction out front, means I've got a vertical shrink, so it's getting shorter. That minus 5 means I'm going to the right 5. Remember, it's the opposite in the parentheses. And that plus 2 means I'm going to go up 2. Okay, the third thing you might see looks really different. If you compare number 3 to the other two, it's missing the parentheses. So if you don't see any parentheses, that means you're not going left or right. So first thing, I've got a negative, then I've got a number in front of x squared, then I've got this plus 1. So that 1 is going to be, that negative out front is going to be an x-axis reflection. That 3 means I'm going to have a vertical stretch. And that plus 1 means I'm going to go up 1. All right, so remember, no parentheses means no left or right. All right, for the next kind of question you might see, the directions say to write an equation for the following transformations as compared to the parent function of f of x equals x squared. So for number 1, we're going to reflect across the x-axis, translate 2 units left, and vertically stretch by a factor of 4. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 transformations that I've got to make sure I show. So let's start with the very beginning. So if it's reflected across the x-axis, that's going to give me a negative out front. Okay. Translated 2 units left. So if we're going left and right, that's going to need some kind of parentheses. And left is going to be plus 2. Remember, it's the opposite. And stretch by a factor of 4. So any kind of stretching or shrinking is going to go out in the front. So I'm going to have that there. So just to, let's see, that was number 1, that was 2, and that was 3. That way we can match them up. Okay, next one. So this time we're going to vertically shrink by 1/2 and translate 4 units down. So this time we only have 2 transformations that we've got to show. So vertically shrink and go down 2 units. So we're going to have f of x equals. Now with this one, because it doesn't say anything about left or right, we don't need our parentheses. So we're just going to have our 1/2 in the front, x squared, remember no left or right, no parentheses, and 4 units down. So that means we're going to have a minus 4 on the end.